So now we start with natural resources. So the first question you might ask is, well, what are natural resources? How are they different from other plant assets? Well, basically, natural resources are not constructed. They are not man-made. They are natural, as you might suspect. So these would be things like timberlands, oil and gas reserves, mineral deposits, things like that. So they're not man-made, and they have to be physically extracted. So if you're talking about trees, you have to cut them down. If you have oil, you have to pump it out, gas and oil. Somehow you have to extract various minerals from the earth. They don't just kind of jump out and go along with you. So they're not man-made, and they have to be extracted. That's what makes something a natural resource. Okay, so the initial cost, it's going to be similar to our other, similar to plant assets, where it's going to be the initial cost of whatever property you bought that these are on, plus any development cost to get it ready for its intended use. The accounting for oil and gas, particularly, and timber and natural resources, pretty complicated, and fortunately for you at this point we keep it real simple, which is nice. Okay, so you'd have to buy the land, and then if you the development costs would be things like if you buy a timber parcel, you have to put in logging roads. Those would be part of the cost there. If you are doing a mine, you have to do all the mine shafts and all of that. Oil and gas is so complex, I wouldn't even know where to start. Okay, so with natural resources, we use depletion, okay, because once you use them up, they're gone. So with our regular plant assets, the trucks, the buildings and things, we use depreciation. Here, it's depletion. And so as you cut the timber, you've got less trees. As you mine coal, there's less coal left, and all of that. So our journal entry is basically going to be, depletion expense. This is where we want to end up, with depletion expense. And then most of the time, they're not going to use an accumulated account here. It's simply going to be crediting the asset itself. So if we were doing, a mine, it would be mine. You could use an accumulated depletion account, and you wouldn't get it wrong. Okay, so that's that. So computing it, you have to this is the way we get the depletion rate right here. And so the first thing you have to determine is the total cost. Okay, so that's that's fairly straightforward. Chances are you've got that on a document somewhere, what you paid for this resource, and that would also be plus the cost to get it ready for its intended use. And then less the residual value. This is equivalent to the salvage value. It's what's, once we're done with it, what's the value of what's left. For most of the problems, they're going to use a zero value here, but if that's not always going to be the case. So we get total cost, less residual value, and then this is the tricky one, the total estimated units. So how many trees are in that forest? How much oil is under the ground there? How much ore is in that mine? How are you going to find that out? Well, you call a geologist and they give you an estimate. Fortunately for us, they'll just give us that number. So let's see how this works. I've got this example of, we've bought a mine that cost $7 million. The estimated total output is the 35 million tons. No residual value. And then this year we extracted 5 million tons. All right, so really it's fill in the blanks. So the cost, total cost would be the 7 million. Whoop. A little carried away there, okay. Minus 0, because we're having a 0 residual value, divided by the total estimated tons of 35 million, would give us a rate, and that would give us the depletion rate here of 20 cents per ton. So that's not too bad. Then this is kind of the first step. You get the depletion rate. The second step is you take the actual tons you extracted this year, which is the 5 million, and you simply multiply it times that rate, and that gives you the depletion expense for the year of, looks like it comes out to 1 million. Okay, so you do depletion expense, 1 million, and credit the mine or accumulated depletion. And on an exam, you cannot use an abbreviation DEP, because that could be the depreciation or depletion. So you have to let me know that natural resources get depleted. Okay, so now the only complication here is, what if we had not sold all of the ore that we mined? Depletion expense relates to ore, or whatever it is, the natural resource that's been mined and sold. But if we mined, let's see, what have I got for an example here? Say we mined the same 5 million tons, but we only sold 3 million tons. Then we'd have to change this a little bit. We would still have taken 1 million out of the mine, but the only amount we could charge to depletion expense would be the amount that was mined and sold. So we would have to go 3 million tons. Okay, so to get them, this is be 3 million tons times the rate would equal, what do we get here, 600,000. So that would be our depletion expense, would be 600,000. And then the rest of it, okay, so we have 2 million that was mined and not sold. And obviously there's other ways you could do this, but you know, that would be the 400,000. And the 400,000, if it's mined and not sold, that means we still have it, and so that would be called inventory. Okay, so that's the only real complication to that. So when you're doing these, you'll be given most of the information you need, and you may notice this is simply very similar to the units of activity method that we use in calculating depreciation, but this is our depletion rate for our natural resources.